In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good.
Welcome to my weekly video blog, and we're about to break ground in the Getting to Know Me season series of blogs. Now, I spoke to you before about my childhood, which was really just a sort of introduction to my family, really, who they all were. The first season of my life I recognise as starting in 1987. It's called Ever Forth and Onwards, and I'll explain a little bit about that. The thing that sparked this season to begin was the fact that I was going to school. I went to school in Lincoln, about a mile away from where I was living, and we always used to walk. We always used to walk to school. We had to cross a main road, walk through a park, and then walk through an estate, and we were there. So it wasn't a very long journey at all. I have recollections of as I got older, I would be walked to the road, and once I'd crossed the road, the big road, my parents would then leave me, and I'd have to walk through the park and on to school myself. Now, I had a close friend during my infants and junior school, and his name was Christopher Turk, and he lived in that little estate known as St Margaret's Gardens, in fact, between the park and the school, and I always used to call for him, and I think we used to have a drink or something before we went to school. The only time I think that stopped was in the final year, because in year 6, because of course in England the infant schools are years reception 1 and 2, and then years 3, 4, 5 and 6 are the junior school. And my infants and junior school, like most, are sort of pretty much joined together. It was Mannerley's infants, and the natural progression was on to Mannerley's junior, because you don't really get any certificates or anything that allow you to then sort of leave and go somewhere else. It was a county school, so it was effectively run by the council, or it was at least funded by the council, as a lot of county schools still are. I did visit, in fact, my infants and junior school on my first love tour to Lincoln. So I shall let you listen to some of the things that I bring up when I visited that a couple of years ago.
The thing that gets me about this is how much smaller it looks now. It used to be huge here. I'm sure the buildings have shrank in 25 years. In fact, I'm pretty sure they're exactly the same buildings they were 25 years ago. That nothing particularly has been added to this. So I have a few memories of infant school. Most notably, one of our teachers, Mrs. Revel, who used to live in Saxelby, collapsed halfway through a school play once. She was in the audience, so were my parents, and I was on stage. And all I had to do was come on with a plate of paper pies. I learnt how to build paper pies. Basically a cone on top of a cylinder, and it looked like there was no play area here. That's for absolutely certain. Year 5 to 6 challenge zone. Well, that wasn't there before, 25 years ago. So anyway, so yes, she collapsed. I think she was a diabetic. I remember I used to be Mrs. Alot's favourite for taking the register in the 3rd year. And that's about it for primary school.
Very little survives from that time. I do not have any of my work at junior school or at infant school. I do remember we had to work from cards, work cards, and I do remember a lot of sort of project books. We used to get given these big sort of scrapbooks, and we used to have to fill them in with all sorts of things on the topics that we were doing. The only thing that I have left, and I had to say a lot of this stuff got destroyed at the millennium during the move to Yorkshire, is this. It's a little pottery tablet. I don't know if you can see it there. I made this on my first ever day at school. Or rather, I thought I was helped to make it, really. We were just given lumps of clay that we could flatten, and then the teacher had organised some corn to be brought in, and we just basically pressed the corn into the clay tablet, removed it, and it got fired in a kiln that we actually had at school. In our infant school, there was actually a kiln there. So they were fired and given to us. Of course, that was before this school was built, because when I moved there, the first year, it had suffered a colossal fire, I think, a couple of years before, and the infant school was meeting in basically porter cabins. But we did move into this new school when it was built with the kiln in time for my second year. So I'm not actually sure where this got fired or how. I suppose it might have just even have been put in an oven. I don't know. It's very scratty, but I have kept this hanging on the wall for as a little bit of a memento there. Even my records of that period are hazy. The only thing that I have is this, which is in fact a school report with the phoenix there. That was the school logo, and it's got all sorts. This was my school report. This was in the year 5, so it was 92, wasn't it? Yes. And I was marked on English, Maths and Science. English, I enjoy reading, can read fluently, but mustn't be lazy about asking for help. Maths, slow and sometimes careless work. Yes, well, I hated maths, didn't I? David is not naturally inclined towards number work. No shit. Science, this area proves stimulating for David, and he is very ready to pose questions and suggest sensible ideas to explain his observations. Physical education, yes. I don't do very well in physical education. What did she say? Other subjects and comments. I seem to, yes, as the year has progressed, David has seemed to become more aware of what is going on around him. I've always been told that I was a slightly slow developer. I don't know how much of that is true, because I think I developed at normal speed. I think the thing that I often didn't do was interact socially with other people quite in the manner that one is expected to in terms of social development. The same tutor that wrote that did say that she didn't expect me to get very far at all. She didn't expect me to do well in my exams at secondary school. She didn't think I'd end up at university. You know, it was a bit of a negative. You can look at it one of two ways. You can either look at it as being a little bit negative about my future prospects, or you can say, well, that is what has inspired this ever forth and onwards, because the only thing that I seemed to be doing very well was constantly surprising them with how well I was able to adapt, cope, move forward, if you like. Always improving, I think, was something that was quite important as a sort of characteristic of this season, which includes one major theme and two events which we'll cover over the next couple of weeks. You may have seen in my introduction to this, and I did actually say a little bit about it last time, but about the house. We lived in Swallowbeck in a beautiful house, detached, so much room, you know, an empty drained pond to mess around in, and I used to find myself playing. I was quite normal, I think, in terms of playing with my dinosaurs, my little plastic dinosaurs, and my little china ornaments which I used to chip and break, and I used to get very upset about that. In fact, I remember one particular little china tortoise that got smashed by accident, and I was so heartbroken that me and my father sort of placed this thing together and glued it back together with super glue. It was hollow inside. I don't know how we managed to. There was always this one tiny little piece of china on the top of its shell that we just couldn't find anyway, so it always used to have a hole in. I don't know what became of that eventually. I suppose I threw it away, but there we are. I also was not akin to some of the problems that I'd have later on. You know, I don't suppose it means anything at that age, but for your information, I did have a girlfriend in junior school, even if it ended rather horribly in a game of kiss chase in the rain, and she slipped in a puddle, crashed into the wall. This was during playtime, and broke her wrist or broke her arm or something like that. And of course everybody else was saying, well, did she slip or did I push her? I didn't push her, she just slipped. But it's one of those things that that was my last major experience, I suppose. Well, I think we broke up after that. Despite the fact there are two UFC events going on next week, they're both fight nights, and the only person I have really who I care about on any of the cards is Diego Lima, so I hope he does well in his. He's up against Powell Powerlack or something like that. Kid you not. So there we are. Birthdays then, not many this week either. We've got James Allen, Tom McNally, Hannah Taylor, Jay Gladden and Tony Zucker. So many happy returns to all of them. And that is it for this week.